Welcome back to First in Preparedness, and tonight we're going to cover 12 essential items that you should keep within your preparedness plan. Now, if you watched our video on budgeting for preparedness, you saw that our $35 a week budget basically set out enough to have 100 pounds of food, a way to store it, and a defense strategy in the way of an AR-15 or an inexpensive AR-15 solution. And it also left us a couple $100 at the end of that year to spend on other items. Well, I would set out to basically do a $100 challenge to buy 12 items that I thought were fairly essential in terms of a preparedness plan. Now, all of this sitting on this table was purchased for under $100 and is probably critical in terms of things you should have on hand for your preparedness strategy. Now, the 12 items we have here, we're going to kind of touch on what they are and why they're important. So let's get into it. First thing you want to have on hand is regular household bleach. This item can be used for obviously disinfecting, but it's also good if you have a rainwater catchment system or storing some type of water. You can add about a teaspoon of this to 55 gallons and it will keep that water sanitized. The next thing that we're going to talk about here is 55-gallon trash bags. These things are indispensable as far as they can be used for several different things. They can be made into rain ponchos. You can build a shelter out of them. They can also be used to seal up your house in the event of a chemical spill, which apparently never happens in this country. And they can also be used to make waterproof bandages. There are several different uses for this particular item. The next thing that we have here are 1-gallon freezer bags. These things can be used for waterproofing anything. So if you have electronics and you're going to be out in the moist environment, these can obviously save that. These can also be used to keep clothes dry. Not only that, they can be used for what they were meant for, storing items in your refrigerator or storing food for that matter. In the event if you have rice or beans in storage and you have a large package and you open it up, you don't want to be exposing that to air, so you can use this as storage as well for dried goods. The next thing that we have is hand sanitizer. Aside from being hand sanitizer, it also is a very good fire starter. This particular item is very highly concentrated in alcohol and will burn. The next thing that we have is household iodized salt. Well, there's a couple different uses for this as well. Aside from seasoning food and making things delicious, it can also be used to preserve food. Of course, you've heard of salted meat and things like that. There are also medicinal qualities to salt as well. If you have a sore throat, you put some of it into some hot water or warm water and gargle it. It's also good for toothaches and canker sores. So, multi-use item. Now, this next item that I'm going to discuss is another sanitation item. It is, of course, the handy-dandy wet wipes. In the event the water gets shut off in your house and you don't want your ass to stink, well, this comes in real handy. Not only that, it's good for obviously washing your hands and can be used as a makeshift quick horror shower. Next item that we're going to talk about is also indispensable, much like your 55-gallon trash bags, and that is this. Of course, it's duct tape. This has so many different uses. I could probably do a 5-hour dissertation on how to use duct tape. However, I'm pretty sure you know how to use this stuff and what it's good for. Just some examples are, it's very good to work as a bandage, can be used for first aid, can be used to seal off doors in the event that a chemical spill happens that never happens in this country, along with the 55-gallon trash bags is very good for sealing off doors and windowsills and all kinds of things like that. And has been used from everything to repairing race cars to going into outer space. It is a multi-use item and is probably critical in terms of any sort of preparedness strategy. Now, the next item that we're going to discuss is almost equally as important and useful. That is this. They are zip ties. Zip ties are one of God's greatest creations. Well, man-made creations, but nonetheless, they can be used from anything to handcuffing somebody, to securing items onto backpacks, to holding wires together, to repairing. They're almost as indispensable as duct tape. Which leads us into the next thing. Bic lighters. You know what they're for? They're for starting fires, right? Well, they can also be used to seal off paracord when you cut it, be used to seal off rope, and other items or other uses uh, obviously are starting fires. Next we have batteries. These are another obvious item. They can be used to power lights. They can be used to power, air pumps for air mattresses and radios and all kinds of fun stuff. But you should definitely keep extra of these on hand at all times. If stuff or shit hits the fan, you're going to want those. And if you have an Aimpoint Comp M4S, you can power your red dot scope with one of those AA batteries. Next, we have the probably second most popular item for all preppers on this planet, and this is 550 cord. Keep about 100 feet of this on hand at all times. Aside from making cool survival bracelets, it's also good for clothesline, tying things to your car. Can be used to tie people up, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. But it is another item that is cordage. It's a multi-use item, can be used for just about anything. Lastly, this piece of equipment, if shit hits the fan, will probably save your ass. These are a sturdy pair of work gloves. You should absolutely 100% have a pair of these, because the one thing that you can no longer do if you have a hand injury is work or save your ass. Get you a good pair of work gloves. These are just some cowhide. They were from Tractor Supply, I think, but these become deadly important if shit hits the fan. Trust me on this. Well, folks, there it is. The $100 prepper item challenge. Now, I'll be willing to bet most of you have a lot of this stuff on hand already, but what I would suggest is buying these separate, keeping them in a box kind of together, and so you always know where they were, and store it off for a rainy day or a chemical spill that doesn't happen here in the US. And basically keep these things at full capacity, in a box somewhere where you're not touching them or dipping into them. Now with that, hopefully it was slightly educational. Feel free to comment if you have something else that you think you would like to add to this, but keep it under $100. With that, as always, if you are enjoying our content, please like and subscribe, and as always, hit the bell to be notified when we upload new content.